Good morning, everyone, and good evening, Hosanna. Hope you're all doing good in this pandemic situation. It's been quite long, but amidst of all these challenges, we have been able to cope up the different problems that has been rising. And today, we mark the beginning of V Power Track Finals for this year 2021 with a keynote session on wind train technology by Dishant Mishra. Dishant Mishra is the CEO and project head of wind train technology at Bod Resources. He is a mechanical engineer specialized in wind energy. He has over 8 years of experience in energy policy and technology research in renewable energy and energy efficiency projects. Let's hear more about wind train technology and what's in store for us from Dishant. Dishant, the floor is yours.
So thank you so much, Preeti. I am really elated to be part of this program, and thank you so much for inviting me. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am Dishant Mishra. Have around, as Preeti told, around 12 years of experience in energy, various part of the energy segment, be it the power generation or energy auditing, and then been working with Bod Scientific Resources, which is one of the company that I founded. I'm the project head and CEO. At Bod Scientific Resources, we've been working to develop technologies specifically to improve the overall performance of not only renewable energy but integrating the system in order for us to be able to have energy storage and ultimately to solve the problem of the grid. So that is where I will be presenting our technology, that is deep storage and wind train technology, and specifically wind train technology. Before I go into the presentation, my role would not be justified if I do not talk about my experience with having to have interviewed so many candidates, both male and female, and my experience of research and development challenges that I see the gender disparity, which if you know, in the energy sector itself, I don't think so. It will be. I mean, there's no data that I have gone through, but with my own experience, what I see that would be not more than 10% across the world. When you talk of specifically wind or renewable industry, again, that number is very low. Preeti represents a very small minority. She works for a wind turbine company, and
Sorry to interrupt, Dishant, but we can't hear you. I'm not sure if it's the same for the others.
Yeah, Preeti. I can't also hear Dishant.
Dishant, maybe you could turn off the video and try. That would help. Maybe it's because of the poor
the
volume.
university. Hello, is it audible?
Yeah,
Yeah.
now
So
we can hear you. We lost in
yeah.
between.
Oh, okay. So what I was saying is the foundation of these journey, the career that I would encourage young women to take it up would be to start at the level of university, at the level of initial days in your career, to be participating in such programs that IEEE is organizing, and likewise getting to know what exactly which company where they're doing, I mean specific to the tech. So, and that's been our experience. We interview equally, in fact more women, because of various programs, and not just because of various programs that government of India or other agencies promote to encourage women. Our whole purpose is to have women representation in the company in such a way that the decision making has to be more uniform. I mean, some decision, or the process how male folks would think would be able to get us to good results. But they also lack in so many places when it comes to preparation, and when it comes to dealing with a problem in a more meticulous way, where female female candidates would be a preferred choice. It's a basic understanding to have equal representation, and that has been our effort. We've tried to have more women in the team, but as of now, I would still invite more and more uh, women to apply for the roles that we publish, and join in the longer run. And apart, not just us, the roles have been waiting across various other companies, various other universities, and various places across where these STEM fields are being practiced. So in the session that I have for you uh, for this program is I wanted to talk about one of our technology known as deep WinTrain. It's actually the whole name of the technology is known as hyper storage technology, and there are two components to this that is known as WinTrain and deep storage. And the purpose of this deliberation is to just introduce you to the problem statement, and then take you through what this technology can do. So it gives you a full circle idea of where the problem lies and how we are solving the problem, and what are the other challenges. So once I complete, I'll be interested to take questions from you all to know how you see this. Now, coming down specifically to the problem statement, if I can take you through, currently uh, India has a significant renewable capacity in double digit now. It's reaching around 8 to 10%. But in terms of energy, only around 8% of total energy that is generated and consumed in India, only 8% of it comes from renewable. Around 4% comes from wind, 3.5% comes from solar, and around 0.5% comes from the other renewable sources, so around 8%. And this number will increase to 40%, is expected to increase to 40% by 2030. And then it should be, if things are planned in the right direction, globally, the trend is that this number should be reaching around 75 to 80% in 3 decades from now by 2050. And that is what we are looking for the next 3 decades. And to achieve that, we need energy storage technology. And energy storage is not only important for us to store energy, but to be able to reduce the overall cost of operations. Why? Because if we do not have enough storage capacity, we will have to do overcapacity, and we have to install, let's say three times the number of wind turbines, three times the solar capacities across the world and integrate it. So I mean it's a catch 22. Either we invest into energy storage or we invest into overcapacity, and the mid path would be to invest a good amount in energy storage, and of course we will require some. So talking about the solution, we have this WinTrain and deep storage, that is the hyper storage turbine, as one of a very good solution. These are in the early stage of development, and this technology has been in lab for last a few years, and this will take a longer time for it to develop and reach to the market. So possibly in another 5 to 8 years, we may reach that point that you'll see this technology to have deployments across the world. I mean, starting with few and then leading to that. It's a very interesting one how this technology works, and yeah. So in this session, I have planned this session for in detail, but I'll just be going through it in brief. So how does a wind turbine work, and a conventional power, conventional turbine, it rejects a lot of power, and what is the technology, and of course, like there are the other areas that I would have touched upon, but I'll skip that. Wind turbine, it's a simple device which converts kinetic energy to electrical energy. If you know about wind turbines, they convert the incoming wind. The power absorbed by the wind is actually a function of the kinetic energy. So kinetic energy is half mv square. And if you put it all the numbers right, then a wind turbine is actually actually getting energy with the function of half Cp rho A. So V cube. Cp is the coefficient of performance, and rho is the density. So basically, if you see, A is the swept area and velocity. So basically, the power is a broad function. If everything's taken constant, then it's a function of velocity. It's a function of a cube of the velocity. For the purpose of understanding the technology, we also need to know that kinetic energy of a rotating device is equal to half I omega square. And there are, force can be written as rate of change of momentum, that is dp by dt, and torque is again dl by dt, that L is angular momentum. In a regular wind turbine, when we see uh, there is aerodynamic loading onto the turbine that I just represented in the previous slide, and all the energy that is given to the turbine is actually converted to half I omega cube. Cube is in terms of power, so overall half I omega square into omega, and that is the power that it generates. And of course, the electrical system takes away the power by having rate of change of flux. So that is d phi by dt. Purpose is not to take you through the mathematics of it, but to understand the transaction between all the components. So wind comes in and it is absorbed into the turbine in mechanical form. From mechanical form, it is reaching to the electrical system. So these are the three transactions: arrow to mechanical, mechanical to electrical. Now, if you go through a very typical graph between power and wind velocity, you will find the turbine start to generate at a cut-in velocity, where the input energy is sufficient for it to energize the generator when it is online, and it takes to a height when the graph reaches to a peak, which is known as the rated power. It's a function of velocity, and once it reaches the rated velocity of the turbine, then the additional power that is given to the system is actually being rejected. So we have divided the entire graph into two parts, that is the sub-rated, where you haven't reached the rated, and rated is the very specific line where the power is at its peak, and beyond that, whatever input the velocity is giving is actually being rejected. That is the super rated zone. So I just want to take a step back and tell you that wind turbine is the only power generation based out of turbine where the fuel supply is not in control. If ideally we would have had fuel or wind in our control, we would have created wind in such a way that it would have exactly matched the demand that we are having. But over here, wind is not in our control, and wind is not in our control, and that's why we will have to keep the controls in such a way that we are able to generate the maximum, but beyond a point it is not possible for us to generate that. So during a super-rated event, what happens is that a good amount of energy is actually rejected by the turbine. So over here, if you see, there's a good amount of input that is coming over the rated, that is super rated wind, and during the course of that, the turbine is actually starting to pitch, and once it reaches the mechanical form, the pitching is actually executed, and a significant amount of energy is rejected. If you see the graph, if you extrapolate the graph over here, you will find a huge amount of wind, which is, if you add 14 to 15 over here, you will find the graph is reaching a very high place in power side. That is, any velocity that you add beyond a rated. So whatever we are rejecting is rejecting a huge volume whenever we are rejecting, and that is where that is where we see a lot of wind across the year. If we do the number, you will find, let's say, a 1 megawatt turbine will have around 30,000 megawatt hours crossing it, but at the end of the year it generates only 2,500. That is roughly around 10% of its total capacity. So if you see, the current wind turbines generate only 10%. The number may vary here and there, but it won't go much beyond 20% what I see. So only around 20% of the wind energy that goes through the turbine becomes electricity. And the reason is, whenever there is high wind, we just have to reject it simply because our turbine system cannot capture it. And this is what started, as a opening thought for us to do the research. I've been into wind train technology for around 8 years, and initial 4 years were my research and development time when I was in with, during my period in university in Germany. I was able to go through and understand what can be done about this, and we identified any flywheel or any power generating rotating device has a kinetic energy which is half I omega square. And the only two way to increase its kinetic energy can be if you increase omega or if you increase I. In the current wind turbines, omega is actually locked beyond a point. You cannot go, let's say, beyond 300 rpm. But that's that is where only half part of the mathematics has been restricted. The other half is actually I, and that is where we can still go out to increase that. And that is where the problem lies. The problem lies with converting aero load to mechanical load, and this is where the current wind turbines cannot handle it, simply because they have a limitation of omega. And because of that, all the turbine is actually designed to reject the additional omega. But in our tech, what we are proposing is, do not increase omega, just increase the I, and that is where we come in. I don't want to go through the details over here, but this is what we do. This is how the turbine has been designed. In the subrated zone, there are weights that are placed inside the turbine, and when it is in subrated zone, then we are not shifting any weight anywhere. The omega is running the show, and I is at minimal. As soon as we hit the omega, which is the rated omega, beyond which we just start to take out, instead of pushing the turbine in omega terms, we are pushing the turbine in terms of I, that is the moment of inertia. And that is how we are actually able to store a lot of energy for the moment of time that the inertia is high. And as soon as there is wind falling down, wind is always going up and down. So as soon as the wind is falling down, we will have opportunity to bring down the weights back into their position slowly, in intermediate positions also, to just specifically make I in such a way that additional amount of energy that is available for us to dispatch, we can dispatch it by bringing the weights back. So this is how the whole the whole control system is based on. This is what the actual action is required at the turbine level, and this is what we are doing. And it just deals with a lot of basic physics, Newtonian physics, and this equates equal to the rocket equation. So in case of rocket, there is a change in the mass of the rocket, and most of the cases there is no change in the mass. Whenever a body is traveling, you will find the masses are constant, or if they are not constant, in case of, let's say, a car is moving. And definitely, when you are burning the fuel over a lengthy journey, you will find the weight of the car has reduced, but it has reduced at a very small rate. The rate of change of mass is very minuscule. But in other cases, you will not find this change. But only in case of rockets, this is very evident, because the rate at which the mass is being, thrown out of the system, the boundary of the rocket, imaginary boundary, the amount of mass that is being rejected out of the system is huge. So that's why their calculations of rocketry will require all these changes. So if you go through the second law of motion, the rate of change of momentum dictates the force, uh, or the force dictates the rate of change of momentum. Whenever we are changing the momentum, there is a force. Uh, in the conventional equation, we don't account for this part, which is the rate of change of mass. Likewise, I told you for different examples. In the same way, in our case of angular momentum, most of the systems that we see across the world, rotating systems, do not have a change in moment of inertia. So this is what we are doing over here. The rate of change of momentum, or we are changing the I, and that is where the magic happens, where we are actually converting energy, not in terms of omega, but in terms of I. And so that's that would be the technical part of the presentation. In the same way, we have deep storage, which is integrating into the system, and again it is able to take out a lot of energy. Deep storage is, as in the first image, if I take you, if you see, there is a weight that is attached to the turbine shaft, and the turbine shaft is actually, whatever extra energy that is coming to it, it is being absorbed by this weight. The weight can go up and down, and this is how a new torque can be added to the system. So a base turbine plus wind chain technology plus deep storage would be able to do something called a hyper storage wind turbine, and the application for it would be, it's a beautiful piece of storage. I mean, if you see, it can interact. The current wind turbines have a very simple arrow diagram. If you want to know it in that way, the wind is coming, there is a turbine, and the electricity is going into the grid. But a hyper storage turbine is a very different connections with the grid. So it has an intermediate storage, which you've already seen, the storage which is available in the turbine blades, and the storage which is available below the base of the foundation of the turbine, that is deep storage. And in that case, a turbine can be programmed for 15-20 minutes, or 1 hour to 2 hours of storage. And whenever there are these fluctuations in the wind side or on the grid side, it can store energy or dispatch extra energy from its storage and reach to the grid. So this is like the broad uh, summary of both the technology put together. They known as hyper storage wind turbine. So that would be my presentation. If you people have any questions from your side, I'll be happy to answer that. I'll also be, I would have shared, because of confidentiality agreements that we have various, I would have shown you a lot of details. But maybe if somebody of you would be interested to go through it, we publish few programs for internship, as well as for early researchers who want to publish papers on it. If you have done any prior work in energy storage, renewable energy, wind turbines, solar energy, we do take up people to apply for internship, as well as research programs. And if you're pursuing PhD or masters, you want to do something, we can sign up an NDA and take you to take this up. We have a lot of opportunity to publish papers in a company. We are not able to do that job simply because our focus is to develop the product, and not the additional research um, that is along with it. So we are more than happy to pass it on to academia, or pass it on to agencies which can help us in taking it up. So Any questions? I will now invite Preeti back to you.
Thank you so much, Dishant. That was a really wonderful presentation and a variety technology. We have not seen this. So hats off for bringing this up. And thank you so much for giving us this information so that it
Yeah.
will motivate those who are listening to this. It will motivate them to think out of the box and bringing in new solutions that can uh, solve the problem that is existing in the community. So with that, for participants, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat box, or if you want to unmute yourself and speak, that's also totally fine. So maybe I can start. So I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
With this new technology, is there any particular limit on the turbine capacity where you can implement it?
So turbine capacity, no, I mean we can. The turbines typically are now designed for 2, 3, and megawatts onshore, and they are designed for now. We are reaching around 15. So as we are bigger in the turbine, I mean as the turbine rating goes up, it is rather more helpful because we have more length of the blade to cover these section of block that we travel across the length of the blade. So in fact, it becomes the more the merrier. I would say the bigger the better for us. And apart from it, we again do not have any problem in going offshore or going places which is like floating turbines. So we can very well do that. We can use the weights. The one that you saw in deep storage is actually going down. In fact, it saves a lot of cost for us to do that over under the sea, because of course the weight will be a subject to some dwindling during the time, but it will be rather cost effective for us to deploy this offshore.
Okay, that's actually good. So you mentioned about this deep storage. So I had a question on that part as well. So this is kind of an additional weight or an equipment that comes to the turbine. So do you think this will have an impact on the tower and foundation loads?
Yes, indeed. That's one of the primary concerns, and why the technology development has been slow. We've already done prototypes after prototypes, and we've tested it in the lab. And for us, we can execute this for small turbine, but wind turbines itself has taken a good amount of time to develop from early 50s. If Europe already had wind turbines application for domestic purposes and various other purposes in Netherlands and all. But to reach to the commercial development in 70s, 80s, it required the manufacturing of the blades in such a way that it can last for 25 years. It can sustain bird hits. It can sustain stormy conditions, cyclonic conditions. So for us, the part of the problem that we have solved is one thing, but to marry it to the current state of turbines, how it is being done, will be something that we will have to integrate it with a wind turbine manufacturer, who will be able to take care of the loadings. And so for sure there'll be some additional there'll be some additional uh, material requirement. But another thing that I must tell you, that current wind turbines are designed see, I told you 30,000 megawatt hour goes into a turbine, and only 2,500 odd reaches to the grid. Whatever does not reaches to the grid, where does it go? It actually goes in just swaying the turbine, the nacelle or the foundation. So it is actually reaching, it is actually hitting the turbine, it is actually doing the damage that it has to do. All we are doing is taking out more from it. So whatever does not add, it depletes that value. I mean, whatever does not add to the grid power that we generate, it actually does impact the current foundation, the current tower that is deployed. And so whatever we extract is actually reducing the load. So in our own calculations, we have found that there will be a very minuscule add-on in terms of material, in terms of strengthening the base of this. Rest, I am like, this is something that overall economically would be a very beneficial case. So I don't think so wind turbine companies will mind adding a little bit of material to generate a lot of more power out of them.
Yeah, that's actually good because so part of my work is again the load assessment along with the resource calculation. So basically, I deal with energy production as well as load estimate of wind turbines. So
Yes.
we know how the different components get impacted due to the wind speed, shear, and turbulence. So adding
Yes.
this additional equipment is something which might be of concern to the manufacturers. So we now have a certain design class of turbines with certain materials, and of course, site-specific towers can always be made, but that might be a little costly in terms of planning, the simulations done, and uh, doing the construction. So that's when this doubt came in. So,
Yes, so I think indeed these are next upcoming years that I told would be, going into marrying this tech. We've already done the tech, and it's coming, bringing together the conventional turbine to know how wind turbine, wind train, and deep storage will be deployed.
I just have one more question. So,
Sure.
do you consider this solution as something that can be proposed for the AEP improvement section, or can this
Yes.
be only considered in the pre-sales stage?
No, it's definitely increasing the AEP. Not only the AEP, I would say currently a good amount of energy is actually curtailed out of many wind turbines. They are very, lucky if you're getting around 90 to 95% of your energy dispatched. And not only that, the new dynamics. These current day wind turbines were designed for 19. They were designed in 1980s and 90s, right? And the whole idea was, okay, everybody in the class is able to generate to the discipline whenever they want, and we will come in and supply this additional amount of 2.5% of the grid. And that point in time, they were actually just plugging into the grid, and whatever they can generate, that just putting into the grid, and minor adjustment was possible for grid operators to do. And that's how you used to bring in these turbine online and offline. But that comfort will slowly go off, because now we are investing ourselves completely onto these renewable operations, and now that comfort is gone. We are not like half or 1 to 5% of the grid. We are now going to dictate a significant portion of the grid. Now if we deploy, then definitely all the wind turbines tend to lose if they don't have a inherent storage available to them. The extra amount of turns that it can do, and if we are not able to extract all the energy, then these turns will be wasted. So moving from here to the next generation of wind turbines, it's an ideal match. I mean, why I'm saying this, I just will take half a minute to tell you how it works. Whatever turbine you're designing, uh, the for me as a grid operator, I will ask you, can you give me a flatter curve rather than these, any spikes that is coming? Can you dilute that spike and make it a flatter one? Just use that spike part and make the the troughs that is coming, the pits that is coming. Can you fill that? It's called peak shaving and valley filling, right? So can you do that? The current wind turbines cannot do that because they can't store any energy unless you deploy batteries to it, which is not a great way because the cost is very high. Unless you deploy hydrogen. Hydrogen is, again, you have to use electrolyzer, and I am doing the job on the run. I mean, I'm just using some extra weight, so I'm just taking that extra spike and filling the. So definitely, I would say that the turbines that are there, we are bringing this tech. But if somebody asks questions to any wind turbine operator, wind turbine manufacturer, they will be deploying all these kind of tech to, and there's already some amount of tech that is deployed to sort of linearize the curve, like capacitor banks, or when you integrate turbines at a wind farm level, you have DFIGs, so where you take energy from the grid and put it back to the grid whenever there is surplus. But that's a very minuscule amount. With this, I think we can go as high as as in AEP terms, it can go as high as 5 to 6%, even more. So that's something that nobody has seen till in last good phase of development. APs don't go beyond 1 or 2% with all the software, all the applications put together. I mean, some places it might go few 3 to 4%, but whatever we can add to it over, top it up by 5 to 6, 10%.
Thanks, Dishant, for that wonderful explanation. Participants, do you have any questions? Yes, Alagoon.
Yes, this is a very wonderful opportunity for all of us to hear from Dishant, and it is a wonderful presentation, Dishant. And we could see how the linear momentum can be changed to have variation with inertia, how the overall output from the turbine can be increased. So the technology explained by you from the basic concept, it is very much interesting for us. And I have a question to you, being a communication engineer. I want to know what technology you actually use for monitoring what has been generated from the wind turbine, and how you are getting that information together, what technology you are actually now using. And our students are also interested in that domain, and we were working on that. And I want to ask this to you.
Okay, thank you so much for the question. If I can call you Alagoon Meenakshi, let me refer to you as Meenakshi, if it is fine. So Meenakshi, at this stage, what we have is a turbine which is at the level of prototype development phase. So we have we are in the comfort of our labs. We do a small prototype of around 2 meter, 1.2 meter to 2 meter dia, and this allows us anything which is too big or too small is difficult to manufacture. So for our lab purpose, we would ideally have wanted it to be very, very, very small. It can fit into maybe a bag, right? So to just see the trend, how it is performing. But when we started to do the job, we realized we can't make it very small because the small scale manufacturing is difficult. So we chalked out to make it around this size that we can fit it into a wind tunnel. We would have wanted it to be 5-6 meters, but we can't fit it into a wind tunnel. As of now, all the controls that we deploy is actually for the purpose of testing it, not for the purpose of deploying it in the real. So as of now, but interesting for you to know that what we know how it will work is that currently LiDARs are being used across the world for few wind turbines just to do some basic checks. LiDAR is like a laser-based technology. The cost of LiDAR is a little on a higher side, and the value add that it does current day for the current day wind turbines is just to check some yaw misalignment and just to check whether the overall performance of turbine, all the control systems is in place, because currently LiDAR can sense incoming wind, let's say 10 seconds ahead. But the benefit of it is that you can just do very small changes to your turbine. To turbine performance. You can add maybe 3 to 4% of additional energy across the year if it does so much. But the beauty with wind train technology and deep storage is that
sorry to interrupt, Dishant, we can't hear you. No, still not.
Hello, is it audible now?
Yes.
Yeah. So thanks. The current day LiDAR, which is being used, is not helping. A much beyond a point. This may add few. But when we use LiDAR, I know my wind is going to be, after 10 seconds, this is going to be my wind, and I can very well beautifully place my weights according to it whenever there is a change that is coming. So I'm like a batsman who is knowing which ball will be coming the next, right? And I can put my shot in place just before to do that, and that you know that becomes a very interesting case. I am knowing how much I am generating to the fullest, and if I know 10 seconds in advance that this wind is going to hit me, I can even plan better to suck out every possible joule of energy that is possible for me to do that. And it becomes a very interesting case for the control engineering. These are there can be one basic control philosophy and these micro loops where I can add. It's a very interesting case for not only the engineering but also for control engineering.
Meenakshi ma'am, you're on mute.
Thank you, Dishant. As you were in the prototype stage, you were concentrating more on the development and you were trying with various laboratory experiments on how to get maximum out of it. And when you were thinking about the communication side or monitoring of the overall implant when you are trying, we are always ready to have association with you, and our students will also be very much happy to have any intern with your side, and in future we will disturb you, I think.
No, sure. Most welcome to, don't, it won't be a disturbance, but it will be a, welcome thing from your side to sort of do that. Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Meenakshi ma'am. Any other participants? If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute. So maybe one last question from my side, and sorry for
Sure.
So with the development of hybrid technologies, incorporating solar and storage, do you think that can be a challenge to your proposed technology?
No, in fact, it's an add-on. I mean, what I am proposing, see, I haven't been able to share some more details on the development on, development on energy storage technologies. Currently, if you know, the solar operators, they come in at morning around 8 and they are able to do the job till morning, the evening 5. This is, some 12 hours of window where they can, some 10, 12 hours of window there they can perform. Now, adding in more into this would require, because then you have an evening peak and you have a morning peak after which you entered the game. I mean, in the morning peak itself you've entered, but you're not hitting directly a very big high to to be able to suffice that morning peak. So current day operations, the grid is dependent on coal and gas and hydro, right? So if you have to integrate, you are currently integrating with wind turbines, the hybrid model that is currently coming in. But hybrid model is a overcapacity model. When I am actually putting in X amount of solar, X amount of grid, and trying to do the best out of it. But when more and more people depend on the hybrid model, the current hybrid model is actually supported by in between operations of coal and gas. And if there are no gas and coal, then the only solution I would say is energy storage, the full time energy storage. And if that has to happen, a 15-20 minute or half an hour storage is an amazing place to be in. You are getting 3 to 5 or maybe 10 times a day your bucket will be used across the day. So I am beautifully fitting into the hybrid model as well, because the bigger challenge is to if I am being utilized for a large capacity, it's like operating a big aircraft to just take 5 or 10 passengers a day. And that is how the current system is being planned. I mean, the large capacities are not being offered the schedule that they have. So you're already the plane is half done by you having the solar capacities coming in. You've already taken half the passenger load from me, what I was operating, the full load, the current coal operator. And how far you can take them, like how far you can take offload them, because their profitability is currently. So if you have to displace coal, hybrid may not be a complete solution. Hybrid can only be good until unless there is coal operations. If you have to get rid of the coal operations, you need to bring in permanent storage that you can surely say that okay, I'll be able to supply X amount of energy, and you need to bring some coal offline permanently, then you can do that. So hybrid is a rather an add-on for us. Whoever does the job, energy storage will be required for whatever whoever is doing it.
Thanks for answering that, Dishant.
Sure.
Any final comments or questions from the participants?
Sure. So
I guess not.
So if that be so, I mean, this is now for me to. I would only conclude from here. Preeti, that is the way forward.
Yep. So before that, we would like to present to you a small token of our gratitude.
Oh, okay.
Let me just share my screen. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
So once again, thank you so much, Dishant, for accepting our invitation to be a part of VPower Track Finals and delivering a keynote session on the introduction to WindTrain plus deep storage technology. As mentioned, this is a very innovative idea from your side, and I hope that the participants are encouraged to think more and come up with such new innovative ideas to solve the energy problems that are existing. So I kindly request you to accept our digital token of gratitude. And thank you so much from the VPower Track team and the whole ESS12 team. Looking forward to more collaboration from your side.
Thank you so much, Preeti, and thank you so much, for VPower to have me. And surely, I mean, I wish you all the best in the effort that you guys are putting in, and commendable work. And I look forward to be definitely passing on whatever we can for the future to whatever help we do. And you're doing a great job. So let me also comment.
Thank you so much again. So before winding up the official keynote session, I request all of you to please switch on their camera so that we can take a memorable picture.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dishant. It was really wonderful session. And as a computer science engineer, I would say somehow it was off the topic, but I was completely relating those things where we require. Like I was talking to Preeti as well a few days back regarding BMS, battery management system, in all around. What are the different fields as a computer science engineer we can contribute in renewable energy domain? That's really nice of you. Thank you so much for sharing your time.
Thank you. And it is interesting for even for all the fields. I mean, I tell the same thing to my teammates. The nature does not know you've studied mechanical engineering or you've studied electrical to give you the problem. It might come from any corner of, and you have to integrate. The nature doesn't know, we have demarcated it in such a way. And I tend to go back to the basic understanding. I was able to take you through the engineering. That's why it looked a little, but it has a lot of stuff for every, I mean, the entire engineering college, all the departments are integrated into this, what we are doing. So it is indeed. And surely we'll be publishing more stuff once we, are able to do. And it will be interesting for you to catch up on that.
Sure, sure. Yeah, rightly said, because IEEE as well itself, we focus on connecting all the branches together,
Yes,
bringing
yes,
diverse nature of branches together, because it's what we get the final product out of it.
yes, yes. It's a center point where, everybody is transacting their effort into.
Yeah, yeah. Perfect then. Thank you so much to all the
Thank you.
participants. I request everyone to come on the camera. It's fine. It's more than, I would say, 1.5 years we haven't seen human faces. So better we can join us on the camera and we can make a token of memory from this vPower keynote. Yeah, there we go. I request other people as well to join us. Bhojana ma'am, we can't see you.
Very dark
might
in
be-
my place. Oh, sorry.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
So, Ramnik, would you please take the honor of the
Yes,
screenshot?
yep,
It's
yep.
just-
Go ahead and let me take one. 1 second. Perfect. On the count of, can we make W representing vPower? Will it be perfect?
Okay. Yep.
Let me just put a timer here so that I can also make my W. Okay, there we go on the count of 5 seconds. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your
Okay.
presence. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Dishant, for
Okay.
sharing your
Thank
thoughts.
you so much, Dishant, once again, and all the very best for your technology development.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you very much
I-
for presentation. I would absolutely add a lot of control. I am control person. So anyway, you have a lot of room and you mentioned control engineering. So thank you so many opportunities for students to learn and to apply and to develop. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Ramnik, and
Thank you.
best of
Thank you.
luck to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhuzenna.
Thanks.
Okay then.
So,
Thank you all.
Ramnik, you can stop the recording probably.